Well, we're already prepping for the next week, which will be the last episode of this season of the Andor series. It's going to be sad to see this one go, because I feel like this series has changed Star Wars for the better and the most. While other series just filled in the gaps, this one made sure for us to never see Star Wars the same again. And it starts on Narkina 5, of course, with Cassian Andor and his buddy trying to hide from Imperial scouts searching for the pair. Sadly, though, we finally see that Marva has bit the bullet. She has died from her breathing problems, and that an Imperial in the cantina and Cinta were paying close attention. Luckily, Cassian comes upon two alien scavengers who are rummaging through, trying to find as many parts as they can, but once Cassian makes his run for the quad jumper in order to escape, they get caught into a trap. Lucky for them that they have met the scavengers who are against the tyranny of the Empire, and ultimately they help them escape. There was a mishmash of characters in this episode. A lot of them make a reappearance and have flash quick scenes, which I guess leads up to Marva's funeral. Everybody is collecting their thoughts, awaiting if Cassian will make an appearance. Just a quick side note from what I just said about all these planets, people, a lot of interchangeable storylines. This is the genius of Tony Gilroy and the series, the Andor series, because it has shown us a world, a path that was often seen in Star Wars comics, mostly the intricacies of the galaxy, the minor details that Star Wars never really preoccupied itself with, especially Star Wars media. It was comics and novels who showed us a rich world, but when it came to movies and TV shows, they mostly focused on the main aspect of Star Wars. And it's because of this, I think, that most people actually love the Andor series, and some people hate it because they are not accustomed to seeing all these minor details in Star Wars that enrich the world we live in when we see this series. You see, each location has their character encounters, their character storylines. The world feels more vibrant, oftentimes dreary, and it's also filled with rich visual storytelling too, especially compelling cultures and people that are actually fleshed out. This becomes very clear in this episode when we hear the tradition of after Marva's death. They introduce a new funeral custom through Marva on Ferrix. The daughters of Ferrix actually carry her out, and we've seen some funerals here and there, especially Qui-Gon and Padme, but nothing out of the norm, really. However, now in episode 11, this series introduced this idea of being quote-unquote bricked. What they did with Marva, for example, is that they carried her out, they cremated her body, then they used the ashes to form a brick, a physical brick, and they placed that brick into a wall that would become a physical part of Ferrix, so that she would go on to live forever in the planet that she loved. This is a very interesting and crazy concept that most of us would not really understand, but it shows how the people of Ferrix feel about their place, about their community. Tony Gilroy did not stop just there. He also went into the marriage customs of Chandrillans in the last episode and now in this episode too. She is fearful of her daughter having the same fate as her because we now know that Mon Mothma, through Chandrillan custom, had an arranged marriage with Perrin, and we see in the series that they do not always get along or are on the same wavelength. Mon Mothma and Vel just look in sheer horror to see that her daughter now is following the same ancient customs, and to make matters worse, she loves it. Now, Mon Mothma's sacrifices is even bigger because she wants to take her daughter away from those old ancient customs, but she also needs to decide if she will sacrifice her daughter to Davo and his son so that she can get what she wants. Bix is put through interrogation again, and you could clearly see the traumatized nature that she is living through. Even a veiled threat of bringing the doctor back for torture has her in shambles. It is sad to see where Mon Mothma was during this time period of her life. She conveys to Vel that her daughter is pretty much embroiled in their older culture, not being a free-thinking woman, but being bound by Chandrillan tradition. Lastly, she conveys to Vel her mistake that Luthen warned her. She has involved somebody that should have not been in Tull, and he has brought in a vulture. She tells Vel that she has a plan, but we are not made aware of it just yet. Cyril gets the news as well on Coruscant. The sergeant that helped him in the first episodes did contact Cyril to tell him that Marva is dead. He had been intercepting signals back and through, and he had found out what happened on Ferrix, and that everybody should be on high alert if Cassian Andor makes it back. Cassian, though, successfully returns to Niamos to his hotel room where he had left all his belongings, his credits, and Briar pistol. Now, this series' biggest weapon, I think, in my opinion, is Luthen. When they need to bring out the big guns, they ultimately have a scene with Luthen, and this one didn't fall short of amazement again. Luthen against Saw Gerrera. They went head-to-head because now Saw ultimately understood the skeevy plan that Luthen had of letting the other men be killed by the Empire just in order not to be detected. Luthen went as far as to point a blaster at Saw Gerrera's head just in order to prove to him that he is not working for the ISB, and demonstrated to him physically and emotionally how the Empire will feel if they alert the other men. If they are not killed, the Empire will be on alert. They will know they have a spy amongst them. If they do, then they will feel fat from victory, they will be lazy again, and this is the moment when they, altogether Saw Gerrera with Luthen, can strike. Believe it or not, though, the fun didn't stop there, because immediately after Saw Gerrera and Luthen come to an agreement, this is when we see a spectacular space battle, in my opinion, one of the best I have seen in my life in Star Wars. It had that gravitas, more so than flashy tricks. Again, the Andor series, Tony Gilroy shows us how these things can have a magnitude of their own. We are finally introduced to the Arrestor Cruiser, which is a Cantwell class. If this is familiar to you, this is because in the Solo: A Star Wars Story, it was featured in a commercial for the Empire. Furthermore, the Arrestor Cruiser had a scene in that movie in Solo: A Star Wars Story. Unfortunately, it was cut last minute, but they finally made it appear officially in now Andor Episode 11. And it was as advertised. The powerful tractor beam went up to 4. Luthen was trying to stall them as much as he could until he could prep his navigation system for hyperjump, and he chose the perfect moment to strike. With his flares, he destroyed one of the dishes as the TIE fighters were closing in. He destroyed a couple of them and then used the side-to-side blaster beam to destroy the rest, as we saw in the trailer. And with that, he finally made his jump to hyperspace, with the captain of the ship not being able to do anything but look on in disappointment. And the episode finally ends with Cassian communicating with his friend on Ferrix and ultimately finding out that yes, Marva has died, and by the looks of him, he knows that this could be a trap. By what I gathered from his face reaction, I don't think he will make it back to Ferrix, although if he does, it will give us a spectacular finale for sure. All in all, again, a great episode. I haven't been able to find one filler or bad episode in this series, and I'm not about to start not nitpicking now, especially that we have a finale coming next week, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, leave a thumbs up down below, subscribe for dailies. Now you can have an awesome day, Star Wars fans. I'll see you in the next video, and may the Force be with you. Until then.